Right, so welcome to our final weekly sync. As I mentioned on Slack, next weekend is scheduled to be like the cohort-wide demo, so watch out for messages about that. And I don't know if everyone saw, I was thinking maybe we could start off with working through the Git issues that Shane was describing this morning, just so we can kind of figure that out, and then we can move into demos, retro, and then planning for the rest of the week. Does that sound good to everyone? Okay, cool. So Shane, do you want to walk us through what's happening and we can try and figure this out together?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me move this screen here, move this screen here. I think the long and short of it, from what I can tell, is that on Wednesday last week, I merged some of our current work into my branch, trying to get ahead of the merge conflict that I thought would be coming. And I think that I ended up just moving things slightly on my local end so that when I'm trying to recreate this bug that we're seeing, this duplication of the list item or the list component itself, it's not showing up on my local end, on my branch, and I'm not sure how to fix that on my end, but I think a solution might be for somebody else to pull down my branch, make whatever changes need to be made and send it up from their side, and then finish the merge away from my local end, sort of a thing. At least that makes sense to me for some reason, but we'll see. We'll see.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering, so have you made changes on your local that you haven't done that aren't on GitHub?
I don't think so. I think that I don't think so. Like I
Okay.
didn't mean to. I'll put it that way.
Okay. So maybe the
Um,
first thing we can do is try a Git pull and see if it like comes down to your local.
yeah, let me share my screen here so we can actually take a look at this. Bum, bum, bum. See here, should be the right screen here, and then I'll go ahead and just git pull where I am. I'm on SM delete list. There's no tracking information. So I'm getting.
You just copy that code, the Git branch setup stream. Yeah, and run that.
Oh wait, there's a space. Sorry. Delete all this. Copied it wrong. Sorry, everybody.
No worries.
Oh.
You do need to change the branch name to your name.
Oh, goodness. So
Sorry,
get
I should have said that earlier.
that's all good. Set upstream to origin. There's gonna be SM delete list. No. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. And then get pull. Oh, there we go. Okay. This is boding well. Let's see here, list. So it's currently empty. I'm pretty sure this is where we were finding the error. Let me pull up the Git issue. But it should be within list. I duplicated this bit of code right here, I believe, 57 to 59. And then,
I think it was a little bit longer than that, so just be careful. I
yeah,
thought there was a lot more lines of code that were duplicated.
yeah, I guess this is what I'm running into where I just don't see it on my end. And I'll do npm start and show you what it's looking like on my local. Oh, here we
I
go.
think I might be seeing like
Oh,
from 67 to 94, looks like it might be the same as the bit above it
6794.
or
Oh,
something
so
like that.
I see.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Okay, so we're cutting out 67 and 94, I believe, or do we prefer the other one? Or they're the same? Oh, they are the same. My goodness. Okay. Select a list.
I
Yeah,
think that's, yeah, double check that I'm not
okay, I
sending
think
you
it's
astray, but
67 to 86. I think that's
okay.
what Dean said as well. So thank you very much for finding that earlier. Cool. Boom. And then I just did npm I. Let me just make sure on my local it doesn't duplicate it. Here's this. I'm signed in. This is currently empty. Cool. All right, that's looking better.
Nice.
I can leave. While I'm here, I might as well show you the delete list functionality of this
Yeah, let's do
branch.
it.
Wait, I'll just lead into that. So I'm signed in up top. I don't have a list selected. I'm going to go ahead and click shared test list. Up here on the top here, shared test list. We're going to go to manage list. We're going to hit the delete this list button. There's a confirmation window. I believe it'd be a good intention to maybe replace this with Toastify as we do that as a next step. But so okay or cancel. If you cancel, it does not delete it. It stays up there. Everything's happy. If you do hit OK, it will remove the list from essentially the currently selected list, and it removes it from shared list. And I'll show you the files for that real quick in a moment. So I'm gonna hit OK. It lets you know that the list name has been deleted successfully. It then removes it from the local storage, so you're no longer selected the list. It also boots you back to the home page just as a redirect. And I think that's about it. We can see that it's no longer there, and it prompts you to select a list. And then let me show you the code itself real quick. It felt way tougher than it ended up like being. Like it was very much how we were doing any other of our like update doc or delete doc. Let's see here. So I sort of patterned it after the create list, and the real like so we look up the list itself is a list document ref. User document ref is the user that's signed in, essentially. And then we try, right as we delete the list itself that's in the user's profile, as well as the shared list reference to that same thing that's in the user's and then the user sort of like profile. The return true and false, I put in only to essentially let the user know what happens afterwards. And then I pass that all to manage list. Let's see here, handle delete. This is like the main thing right here. This is just an early return to make sure that there is a list selected. And then here's the confirmation box itself. And then it follows that true path of, within this if. Let's see, here is where it actually deletes the list on 43. The delete confirmation is where I'm sort of taking the true or the false, and then I'm doing something else with it. And then if true, it lets you know it worked, and then it does that redirect. Or I'm sorry, the set list path null is the removing from state. Then the navigate is to send you back home. And then otherwise, there's just an alert, and we can, this could be like a Toastify thing or something like that in the future. But that's where that false would go if that pops up. Yeah, and I think that's just about it. Please let me know if there are any questions.
You were mentioning before everyone joined that working on this project really helped you to understand Firebase a little bit more. Can you talk to us about kind of what you learned about Firebase in working on this issue?
Yeah, it seems one of the most common errors I would get with Firebase was the format of this delete doc or update doc. Or I'm sorry, this reference right here, not the delete or update, but when you're looking for a reference in Firebase, it wants it to have an even number of segments for that pathway. And I'm not sure about this entirely, but the sense I'm starting to get is Firebase sort of nests data as sort of like document, then collection, then document, then to collection the whole way down, so that it wants an even number of segments in order to access the collection at each point almost. Because the odd spots would be the document itself, or maybe I have that reversed, but it's almost like it alternates between these two things, and it only wants you to access every other like nested part of the structure. That's about the context I got on it, and I think it's worth like looking further into. Just because Firebase seems to be very what do you call it, opinionated about how it's being used.
Awesome. Yeah. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Shane?
Just good work, because that's a lot of stuff to do without any guidance from like the Collab lab. So excellent work.
Thank you. And definitely the conversation around the issue this week has been so helpful for just like making sure I'm not going off in this weird rabbit trail that we don't need to be on, because I was starting to do that and then office hours pulled me back.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel
I'll-
like this one was not technically difficult exactly, but there was not, I don't want to, the phrase that keeps coming to my mind is like there's like existential questions about how to make it work. Right? That's not really the right word, but you know, like it was more about like how do we want this to, what do we want it to actually do in Firebase, and how do we want it to function? That was the, I think that was the more difficult part.
Yeah.
This week.
Like more
Absolutely.
decision making on your part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really happy about the conversation that we did have in office hours and really kind of talking through the user experience and how people might want to use it, and then structuring our app and how it affects the database around that. So I think that was a really productive conversation.
Totally agreed. Yeah, something I did want to mention is I think there was a really, really good conversation, like you're saying, about, what if a user can delete somebody else's list? Like, what does that mean for the app? Like, is that still a valuable thing, or do we want that to happen? And, we kind of realized, I think, in our conversation that that's not even what's happening. Firebase doesn't let that happen the way that we were thinking, but without being able to talk about it, I definitely was really nervous that I was going to be deleting the dinner list right before this like demo today, stuff like that. And so it was like, how much can I actually break, and how much can our users then break as a result?
I have one question. I was wondering if you thought about doing a safe delete instead of like just totally deleting the document. That way you could always revert it. Did that consider during the process?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure exactly how to do that. Like I put
Oh,
a warning in the confirmation box where it's just like this can't be undone. But if it can be undone, I'd love to hear about it.
oh, like you would add a property to the list called is deleted. It'd be false, and then you'd update that property to true. And then when you get the list of shopping lists, you can filter out the ones that have been deleted.
That's neat. So it's almost like we're pretending that it's deleted, but we're really just hiding it
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the sort of thing.
That
Interesting.
way, if you make a mistake, you can always go back.
I like that. It's definitely worth like looking further into, put it that way. Because we're gonna put some real work into like developing the perfect shopping list. We want to protect.
We also discovered, I think during office hours, that it's not like fully delete, Firebase isn't fully deleting a list. When you delete it, because it's like still shows up in the user's collection, but it's just like hidden. And I wonder if there is a way to like revert it because of that way.
Yeah, just as like a side comment, just to piggyback on that, I think I did see an is deleted property somewhere in a console log as we've been doing this. So that might be something that Firebase has like inherently sort of like set up that it might just be flipping a switch or something, or it's sending a single, bit more function to have that happen.
Yeah, sounds like it could definitely be worth looking into more. Hey Ray, we're just walking through the delete functionality that Shane was working on. One thing I wanted to say before we move on to the next demo is just like that Git confusion. I'm also not sure exactly what caused that. Sometimes there's like a weird order of events and things happen. It might have happened if you used the GitHub UI to handle merge conflicts and then didn't pull those changes down to your local. Like if you're doing things in GitHub or on another machine, for example. Same as when you're collaborating with another person, just make sure you're pulling down before you continue working. I sometimes forget to do that, and also find myself in a similar Git rabbit hole. But if you're ever confused, if things are different, I would try a Git pull first to see like what's happening. Like, do they think they're the same? Then I have no idea what you would do. But usually it should, like Git should know that they're different for some reason.
And I think as we troubleshot this morning, I'm pretty sure what happened is that when I did like a merge conflict resolution on GitHub using the UI, and I didn't, it's almost like my branch got disconnected from that
Yeah.
upstream. Not sure exactly when, but it definitely was. I was Git pulling and it didn't give me any result, even though there
Hmm.
was stuff sort of a thing. So
Yeah.
just confirming that I'm still attached might be a good step next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Very, very great job, Shane. Another round of applause. That was wonderful. And thanks for being brave and walking through Git scariness with us so we could all learn from it. All right, next demo. Who would like to go next?
I'm happy to go.
Awesome.
Okay, let me just get on my Windows up here. So I had 2 PRs this week. I think I should be sharing my screen now.
Yep.
Okay, so the quick one was this one, which is installing the React Icons package. And now we have access to literally tens of thousands of icons. And I'm using the local deploy just so that I'm not pushing up weird things. And I just went over to the single list component and I added in like a little, oops, I didn't mean to actually navigate, grinning face next to each list name. So the way it works, let me just get that zoom out of the way, is when you navigate to the React Icons package site, they have a fantastic setup where you then just click the icon set that you want to use, scroll through it. You can also search for icons. And when you click the icon that you would like to use, it comes up with a pop-up with all the code that you need to import it into your app. So it was really a very easy here add to import this grinning face and then use the code to just add it to our list. And before I move on to my other PR, any questions about the React Icons package? Okay. All right. Man, this Zoom bar is really in the way. All right. Whoops. So for the second issue that I worked on, it was a bug fix. The checkbox functionality wasn't working as expected anymore. When you marked an item as purchased, it wouldn't stay checked until you refreshed the page. Items weren't staying checked for 24 hours and it wasn't unchecking itself at the right time. So just to demo the functionality now, I'm logged in, or I thought I was logged in. Give me just a second. Okay, there we go. Logged in and shouldn't have done that, maybe. Oh dear. It does not love our cookies. All right, sign back in again. Sorry for that. So logged in and navigating to a list. So currently green tea is checked off as having been purchased in the last like 24 hours, according to our database. And I think that was this one. Yeah. So according to our array, at least, it was purchased, I don't know, five-ish hours ago. So it still remains checked off. And if I were to check off like dog stickers, well, now it stays checked off as expected, and go into, here it is. Timestamp and everything is still accurate. I'm going to change it so that it was purchased about a day ago. I'll give ourselves like a 30 seconds for that to happen. And so when the 30 seconds is up, even without refreshing our list page, our dog stickers should uncheck itself after supposedly 24 hours, just like that. So functionality is back in business. So for the fix, what I had noticed was the shape of the date last purchase field in Firebase had changed from when the feature was originally created. It used to be like a single timestamp, but now it's an array of timestamps, which is why things aren't connected properly. And the other issue was that when new items are being created, the same timestamp was being used in the date created field and the date last purchased. So it meant that when items were being added to the list, they're now automatically checked off, even without having purchased it. So overall, it just meant like calculations had to be revamped and a little bit of logic to account for the new items. So just looking in the files that I changed, because I only changed one, one of the first main changes was the last purchase now checks for the last item in the array instead of just the field itself. And the time elapsed is recalculated based on that. And then here in line 18, just checking that the date created isn't the same as date last purchased, which tells you that it is a new purchase. Some other changes that I made was refactoring so that the set timeout doesn't need a separate function to calculate the time remaining for a checkbox to be unchecked. This helped get rid of the warning that we'd been getting about missing dependencies. And when Ray was reviewing my PR, he found an edge case where for when like the same list was open at the same time and in use by at least 2 different users. So when an item was being selected as purchased by one user, it wouldn't show up as marked off to the other user, but the location of it would change and the purchase urgency category would change. So like to the other user, like things are just jumping around. It's not making sense probably. So the way that it got fixed was pretty much like this code right here, like the time variables got put into the use effect as well, and like added like a couple to change the is checked state so that any changes to that will trigger that re-render. So when one user checks off an item, it immediately reflects for the other user as well. And I think that was the majority of the changes I made. Yeah, it kind of simplified things just a little bit.
Always appreciate a refactor that makes things a little bit more legible. Also, just to point out, like this kind of thing happens all the time where something is working and then you work on another feature and accidentally break something from before. And this is exactly the kind of use case where like testing can be really helpful, like automated testing, to catch like the things that we already had working continue working into the future. So like obviously that's not something that we've implemented in TCL, but that's like a good argument for why that kind of thing can be helpful, just so that you don't have to like a month after you've made a change be like, oh no, that change actually broke something from before. Like, oh crap, it was working. Why isn't it working anymore? So very good job catching that issue and figuring out why it was breaking everything. Because yeah, changing the data can have those kinds of, or changing the shape of the data can have those kinds of impacts. Nice job, Andrea. Anyone have any questions or comments?
I wanted to mention that the like the testing procedure that you put on your GitHub like PR was just so helpful for testing this out, because it was like enough of a change that I was like, okay, how does this even work in the first place? But then just walking through what you told me to walk through, I was like, oh, okay, I can see exactly what's supposed to happen, and it does happen. So perfect.
yeah, putting thought into that kind of communication saves time for everyone else. So it's really valuable to think through that as the person making the code change. So nice job. All right. Anyone else ready to demo their work from this week?
Yeah, I can go ahead and demo my changes. So I did 3 PRs. They're all very small though. So the first one is in the UI. Previously when you selected a list, it would be updated in your list path, but the user has no way of knowing, like, they'd navigate to list and not necessarily know, like, I mean, I've already selected dinner, but they wouldn't necessarily know for sure that they were in the right list or not. And then they would also just be sitting on this home page. And so they've selected a list, but did it work? Who knows? Nothing happens. So now when a user selects a list, it's going to navigate them to the list page, and then the name of the list is now an element on the page on both the list itself and in the manage list, so that they can verify that they have selected the correct list. And yeah, same thing will happen if they go back and switch to a different list. It'll just navigate them back to the list page. So that's that one. Another one that I did was, I'm gonna demonstrate this. I added our palette colors to our Tailwind configuration, as well as our Rubik font that we had selected. So that way we can customize our app more easily and be able to use our font and colors in the app. So just to demonstrate this real quick, because we haven't started styling yet, if I add class name here, I'll say text. We'll do brown was one of the colors that I had put in there, and then font is Rubik. So now we go back and we see that the font has changed and the color has changed to one of the colors from our palette. So that's that one. Let's go back and change that back. And then the last thing that I did was just a refactor. No functional changes were made. I just refactored our compare purchase urgency function according to the suggestions that Ray gave us before. This function's still pretty long, but it was much longer. I think I ended up removing like 10 lines of code with this refactor. And then just changing, essentially, we had like multiple if the dates between purchase was like the same, it was like, okay, do this, do this, do this, to like multiple if else statements to sort them alphabetically. And then with this refactor, was able to put in just like one if else statement and then use local compare to sort those alphabetically. And yeah, that was all the changes that I made.
Very nice. I mentioned on your PR, but I love a refactor where it's you didn't just cut out code, it's like it's a lot more readable. And like it'll, that kind of thing helps prevent bugs in the future because it's easier for people to understand where they need to make changes and things. So that kind of work is really important. So nice job. Any other questions or comments for Davina? Okay, nice job, Davina. Emily, would you like to walk us through what you worked on this week?
Yes. Okay. So my screen. I did 2 PRs this week, and one of them, of course, was adding Tailwind. So you can see here that this looks a little bit different because of the Tailwind like default stylings. So that was one thing. And then the other PR that I did was about streamlining the add item process, and that kind of encompassed 2 things, which were making the purchase urgency field required and moving the add item form to the list view instead of the manage list view. So if we select a list, we can see that the add item form is now on the list view. And if you try to add an item without selecting a purchase date, it will give you an error to select a value. And then once you select it, you get the success message and it will re-render without having to refresh the page. And then let's see. Yeah, so I guess that's it basically for the demo. And then for the code, you can see in manage list here, of course, the add item form is gone. And I actually pulled it out into a separate component. So I made a separate component here. And that was pretty easy, just like grabbed all the, all the functions that were related to this form and the form itself and pulled it into a separate file. Then I had to pass in the data prop and the list path prop for, checking what items are already on the list and adding the item to the current list. So that's in its own separate component. And then it is imported in the list view here. And it will, so then it renders if there is a list selected. The list name and the add list component will render if the list is selected. And this is also something that Caitlin had suggested, was simplifying these like conditional render statements. So the list, if there's a list path selected, it'll show the add item and the list name. If there are items in the list, it'll show the like filter search box. If there's a list selected but no items, it'll show it's an empty list. And then if they haven't selected a list, it'll show that message. And then also, if there's items in the list, it'll show the actual items down at the bottom. I think that's it.
Very nice. Awesome. Any questions for Emily or comments for Emily? Overall, I'm just really liking seeing how the things that you all are working on, we're working on this week individually, are just like really coming together to make just so much more of a polished experience for the user. And also, well, for the user and also for you guys, like refactoring to make things cleaner and easier to understand is also really important work. So yeah, nice job, everyone. If there are no other questions or comments, give yourselves a round of applause for wonderful work this week. It's really cool seeing you all like making these kinds of decisions about what you want your app to be now that there's less direction coming from TCL. So really, really cool. All right, I'll hand it over now to Lewis, who's going to do our retro.
All right, cool. I'll put the link in the chat. And then let me share my screen. So do you want to give like 10 minutes? Is that how much time do you usually give for retros? For
Yeah,
the
usually 10-ish, maybe like 7 or something.
Okay. So let's do at 42. I'll just mute and we can start adding stuff here. And then at 42, I'll come back and we can review what's been added.
Sounds good.
All right, if everyone's finished, we can start with the appreciations. So we'll start at the top. I'm not sure who wrote any of these, but
If you open it, it'll tell you. It's a little clunky, but
oh, Shane.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, just thank you so much with helping me with the deletion functionality and just I don't know, we had one of the longest conversations on a PR this week, and I really appreciate everybody chipping in and just sort of like there were lots of details that came out, not just about the initial thing too. So I just appreciate it.
Cool. And this is Ray.
Yeah, shout out to everyone for working so hard until this week. And then, yeah, you guys amazing. And then it's cool to see all the progress that you have made so far.
Yeah, and I said something similar since I've been out for 2 weeks. The app has grown so exponentially since I've been gone. Like all these small improvements have made it way better than it was before. So great job.
this one's me. But yeah, I think you all work really, really well together. One thing I don't know if I've commented on, but I really like seeing the way you all comment on PRs, like using semantic comments and thing, or yeah, like semantic comments on PRs. I think is just one small thing that is kind of demonstrates how helpful you all are in making things easier for each other when you're collaborating. So yeah, nice job.
I wanted to appreciate all of our mentors for like the thorough reviews and like finding edge cases and the suggestions that they've given us to really make our code more readable and more functional, and more streamlined. It's been really helpful.
Well, Davina.
Yeah, I felt like everyone was really committed to like making sure that we got all these small details fixed, and everyone was kind of even throughout this week adding like more issues as we came across more things that we wanted to do with our app and getting those resolved. So I'm just appreciative of everyone's commitment, and I'm really impressed with the work everyone did this week.
Yeah, agreed. I was really happy with like I feel like we all mostly made relatively small changes, but they had like a big impact, I think, all of them. So, and I feel like that, it's really starting to come together and be a lot more like a nicer user experience. So, and also can't wait to get started on the styling finally.
Awesome. And then with what went well, this one is Davina.
I think that despite not having like pair programming sessions or like collaborating on specific issues together, we were still very collaborative throughout the entire process, through comments and reviews of PRs and suggestions. And everyone this week was really on top of reviewing PRs very quickly, which was incredibly helpful because I know we had several pull requests, more than our usual too. So I think that that went really well.
Hi, Emily.
Yeah, I had a few merge conflicts to handle, and I know Shane did. And even though I also in the next section I also had a little bit of a tricky situation with that, but I think overall we were successful in handling those, and we didn't break anything too bad, so that went well, I think.
And Shane.
Yeah, I sort of echoing whatever everybody else is saying so far, where it's I've really liked seeing like I knew I was going to be on the delete function, and that was really where I was focusing my attention. And it was really nice just seeing like my phone just like, oh, okay. And Davina's working on that, and Emily's working on that, and Andrea's working on that. We're doing pretty well. It's all going in different directions. It was just a neat feeling of just like, oh, we're doing a bunch of stuff this week. All right, cool.
Similarly, I think it was great collaboration, even without the pair programming. I feel like everyone took responsibility for some piece of it. And the communication was flowing either through GitHub or on Slack. And I think it worked out really, really well.
Awesome. I wrote the next one, I think. I said everyone's familiar with GitHub has been growing quite a bit since everyone's been creating issues. They've been creating PRs that have been closing issues. Discussions have been great with suggestions and things like that. So it seems like everyone's quite well versed in GitHub now. So
This one was me. I just similar. I think that you all did a good job collaborating, even when you weren't actively pair programming. But also just the project management side of it, like identifying what was high priority work to be done, dividing it up amongst yourselves, and then still working together to get, to review those PRs and get it merged and everything. I think just the workflow was really impressive this week.
great. And then in the what can be improved, I think this one was Shane.
Yeah, I think this week sort of I wasn't sure until this morning what the heck was going on with the lack of synchronization between my local and then the branch that I pushed. And so just putting it like this is more a note for myself, just looking into always setting up that upstream and making sure I know how to check whether it's connected or not. Because this is maybe the second time it's occurred to me in this way. It's like I might as well dive down that rabbit hole this week or something.
And Emily?
Yeah, I also, even though I am feeling more comfortable with Git and GitHub, I definitely also had sort of maybe a similar thing to what Shane experienced, where I somehow got a little out of sync on my local versus remote branches and stuff. So, but eventually got it figured out. But yeah, definitely could use some more like practice and learning about that, like especially with the merge conflicts. I think that was like a part that I'm less familiar with at this point.
Great. And then for the things learned and action items, two of them are pretty similar, but Davina, you want to go? Well, yeah, Davina, go ahead.
Yeah, just really need to focus on styling this next week, especially for demoing next weekend. We're gonna have to really, I mean, I think it'll be easier because we're using Tailwind, but yeah, we'll have to really focus on that this upcoming week.
And do you have anything you want to add, Andy?
I guess just that we finally have like I think we've got like our front end design set up finally in a way that works in terms of accessibility, so and like colors. So I think it should be hopefully smooth sailing.
Well, and Shane?
Yeah, just something that I didn't know before, like joining the Collab lab and like doing this with Firebase, is that Firebase is a little bit picky about how you use it, and there are some sort of like things that aren't included that you might want. That things like getting status codes back from hitting an endpoint. I was sort of like taking that for granted that would always be something that's built into everything. And Firebase just kind of doesn't have those inherently in the same way. Just getting used to that, I think, is proof of learning. And I'm starting to form stronger opinions about Firebase than I had before, which is definitely a sign of that I'm learning something about it.
Great. And Emily?
Yeah, well, I was also going to say styling, and then I decided I didn't need to also say styling. But I also like Shane learned a lot more about how Firebase works in office hours this week.
Cool. And Davina?
Similar to what Emily and Shane had talked about in the improvements column, I learned a little bit more about Git and GitHub version control and merge conflicts. When I was implementing like our theme for Tailwind at some point, had accidentally pulled the merges that Shane had from his delete list branch, and I'm not sure if it's because I was on his branch when then I checked out into my new branch, but handling that was a little bit interesting. Went into GitHub and like 7 files had been changed and I had only changed 2. So yeah, learned a little bit about that. Definitely could stand to learn more.
Awesome. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add to any of these columns?
Just one thing I'm noticing is a lot of mentions about Git and GitHub Learning. So maybe the mentors, if we have any like favorite resources for learning about those, we can share with the team on Slack.
Cool. Yeah, I have a suggestion, but I'll put it on the Slack channel. Awesome. I think that's everything for the retro.
Awesome. Wonderful. All right, so I will pass it over to Ray to kind of shepherd discussion about work for this upcoming week.
Cool. All right. So good job for last week actually, and then now we will thinking about what is the next issue that we can start working for the next weeks. Do you guys want to start? Any idea to start with?
I think Davina was just adding some this morning, if I'm not mistaken, some specific styling ones.
Yeah, so last week or this past week, I had added an issue that was like a list of all the components that we needed to style, and like with little checkboxes so we'd know what we still needed to work on. But then I was looking at it and thinking, okay, this is kind of one long list. I could probably break this down a little bit. So I just this morning took the issue that I had already created last week that had like 31 like different components that we needed to style, and I just broke it down by view basically. So there should be like 4 of them now. One of them's still kind of long. The list page has like a lot of different elements on it, but that way it'd be easier for us to divide and conquer the work when it came to styling.
Okay, cool. Uh,
We do have an issue up that's the user story is as a user, I want the date next purchase to revert back to its previous state. If I uncheck an item that I checked by accident, I think in the purpose for the purposes of like expediting our styling, I'm gonna kind of put it on the back burner until we've got the styling done, because this is I feel like a piece of functionality that like doesn't make or break our MVP, as long as like the rest of the team is okay with that.
cool.
I think it's smart to, at this point, we want to have like a demo, like a state that we can show. And so I think it makes sense, like what issues are essential for that, and then what is beyond MVP. Yeah, really good call.
Just want to mention next week is the demo, right, Kathleen? Okay, so
Yeah, we're still waiting on the specific date for that, but it should be next weekend. And yeah, so I think styling,
yeah, okay, yeah,
I would agree that that should be higher priority than a feature that's a good one to add, but not essential maybe.
right. I think because styling it will be like with the face for the application, and then people will see. Mostly we will be focused on the styling rather than the functionality. Mm, yep.
So it looks like there's also a Toastify issue up. What does the team think about, um, is that one we want to try and squeeze in this week, or do we think that's also post MVP?
I think it would be nice to have, but definitely styling and just have it presentable before that. That'd be my thought. Unless like as we style, we find that the confirmation boxes are just hideous or something, or they just clash completely, then maybe it takes more priority. But other than that, yeah, just making it look nice and do what it already does, I'm definitely cool with.
I have to agree with Shane on that. I think if we find ourselves in a position where, I mean, because we are using the Tailwind framework, I don't think it will take us that long to style, but unless we find ourselves in a position where we're like, okay, we've got the app mostly looking good. What else can we do at that point? Maybe look into using Toastify.
Sounds good to me. Anything else to add? Or
I had Oh, I was just gonna have a quick question. For the delete list functionality in that PR, if one of our mentors would like to just review that because I'm pretty sure it's looking good, and when I pull it up on the deployment, it looks good. But if I could just get one last set of eyes before I actually pull it in, and sort of an odd question, but the squash and merge for this PR, does that does it turn my 15 commits? Will it show up as 15 commits anywhere, or is it just turn it into one sort of a thing? Just the one?
Yeah, just one commit.
Cool. Just curious.
That's another thing people have strong opinions about, you'll find. The type of merge that you do on GitHub. But yeah, squash and merge makes it down into one commit.
Cool. Anything else for the issue? Is it enough? Everything can cover for the next week?
Ray, do you maybe want to share your screen and we can like assign these out before
think
we wrap?
It's almost signed, I guess. Okay. Which one? Investigation. Okay. This one. Anyone to willing to take this one? Homepage styling.
Or does anyone have a preference for which view they want to do?
I can do the homepage styling.
We'll add Devina here. There's a header and navigations. To be honest, I'm also not sure which one is better. Is it better to be two people doing styling, or it's kind of like tough actually? Do you guys prefer pair programming, or do you guys just prefer like every one person one?
Maybe
Like, would you rather have pairs of people working on two issues?
I can see that being beneficial. I personally like only have availability earlier in this week because I'm going out of the country at the end of the week, but I would be open to like doing pair programming. I think maybe it'll make it easier to like make sure our styling's coherent.
Anyone want to do the same thing here?
Yeah, go ahead and if you add me to homepage as well. And then add me to the navigation too. And then maybe if we can just do like each person has two things they're helping with, and then we kind of like chain link our way there, sort of a thing.
Yeah. Then I'll also do the header and navigation that way. You're not having to do like multiple pair programming sessions.
Better.
That works.
Then how about the list styling?
I can work on that.
Okay. Then do you think you can handle by yourself, or do you need someone to help you for pair programming?
It might be nice to have a second set of eyes, because I'm seeing that we have like buttons and stuff just to have consistency across like that page and I think it's the manage list styling.
Emily, do you want to take this one too?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see. Maybe another one manage styling. Yeah, let's see. Is it okay if I assign to Andrea and Emily too for this one?
Fine with that, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak for you, Emily.
No, yeah, that's fine.
Cool. All right, let's see in the issue. It's only one. Okay, let's see. I think so far each people like have two issue. I think this is good to go for next week. And then if we have time, we can also handle the Rectostify. If someone want to add it, just add it by manually, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Cool.
Nice. All right, everyone. Good luck. Be noisy if you need help from us. And yeah, can't wait to see what you come up with.
Right.
All right. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.